2 Samuel, chapter 14. What happened last week? Does anybody remember?
Sin came home to the family.
Okay. And that resolved itself how? Absalom devised a plan. Now, how long was it been between the time of Tamar's rape and Absalom's revenge? 2 years. 2 years. I hate it when my thumb does that. 2 years. Absalom devises a plan. Gets all the king's sons out, and then does what? Say again? He does, but does he do it, or does he have someone else do it? He has his men do it. When Amnon is what? Drunk. And the initial report back to David is? They're all dead. This is why usually initial reports are usually very, very poor. You know, if you ever watch when they do the shooting, man shot people with an AK-47, turns around and he shot everybody with a 22. And, you know, so you have those things that come out. But Absalom then does what after he kills Amnon? He runs away, but he goes into self-imposed exile. For how long? 3 years. You didn't know you were doing basic mathematics, did you, this evening? That's right. Yeah, we were all at tea at this station. Those of you who know can giggle. Those of you who don't, we'll just truck on. So now, we come to a situation where Absalom is gone, David is on the throne, and we'll look at it just here for a minute. Now Joab the son of Zeruiah knew that the king's heart went out to Absalom. What does that mean? He wanted Absalom to come home, right? He wanted Absalom to come home. But can Absalom come home? No, because guess what would be waiting for Absalom if he comes home? Death. Either by the hand of the king himself, or who else could take Absalom's life?
His brother or sister.
His brothers, right? Because they're all, while they may have different mothers, they are all got the same daddy, and this is one of the things that Absalom used to justify the killing of Amnon, is he raped my sister, I can therefore do this, and now all of a sudden is he murdered my brother, now I can take revenge. And so this sets up this very interesting interplay that we're going to talk about here for a minute. So Joab, we all know who Joab is, right? Joab sent to Tekoa and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, pretend to be a mourner and put on mourning garments and do not anoint yourself with oil, but behave like a woman who has been mourning many days for the dead, and go to the king and speak thus to him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. Have you ever noticed here, as we've been going through here, that everybody is scheming? There is no direct confrontation. The only one that does direct confrontation is Nathan, and he begins with a story that then traps the king to make the king realize that he's the guilty man. But Joab could have gone into the king and said, hey, here's the situation. But he doesn't. What does he do? He goes and he sends a woman from an area that and has her come in, has her put on what? Mourning clothes, has her not anoint herself to where she doesn't look good, she doesn't smell good, she's been pretending to cry for her child. I go in, and then he then what? He gives her a script. I'm going to love that Joab guy. When the woman of Tekoa came to the king, she fell on her face on the ground and paid homage and said, save me, O king. I'm not getting out on my knee this morning, or this evening. I barely got off my knee this morning. And the king said to her, what is your trouble? And she said, alas, I am a widow. My husband is dead. And your servant had 2 sons, and they were quarreling. Now, notice how she sets this up. Your servant had 2 sons, and they were quarreling in the field, and there was no one to separate them, and one struck the other one, killed. Now, a lot of people put this in line with what happens between Cain and Abel. This has a very similar ring to the actual story of Cain and Abel, that Joab is actually taking this from that part of the Old Testament and using it as the script. It'd be something that they would know. I think also you had the parallel between the actual 2 sons that one killed the other one is now gone, because that's what she's referring to. There was no one to separate them, and one struck the other and killed him. And now the whole clan has risen up against your servant, and they say, give up the man who struck his brother, that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed. Can they do that? Well, we'll move on. You chew on that. Answer that question here in a minute. Can they do that? Doo-doo-doo. And so they would destroy the heir also. Notice that phraseology there. Who is Absalom now that Amnon's gone? He is the heir apparent. Will he sit on the throne? No. Let's see here. Lost my place. Pick it up again. So neither a remnant, neither a name nor remnant will remain upon the earth. And the king said to the woman, go to your house, and I will give orders concerning you. And the woman of Tekoa said to the king, on me be the guilt of my lord the king, and on my father's house. Let the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, if anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall never touch you again. It's a nice little thread, isn't it? We'll keep looking at this. We'll push through and then we'll look at it. Then she said, please let the king invoke the Lord your God, that the avenger of blood kill no more, and my son not be destroyed. Does anybody know what the avenger of blood means?
Sounds like an eye for an eye.
Not quite. This is an actual title. One of the other ways of this title can be utilized is, you see it in the book of Ruth, the kinsman redeemer. This can be the same person in many cases.
Is that with the shoe thing?
No, this is with, we'll get to it in a minute. Can the men of the town seek the death of this boy? They can if they're related. They can if they're related. There is a clause in the text that allows you, pigs and acid, shotguns have no ballistic data, to kill a murderer and walk away guilt-free. And he is called the blood avenger. In the other realms, he is the kinsman redeemer. We get this from Numbers chapter 35. Let's turn to Numbers chapter 35 and look at this. Well, this is why we build sanctuary cities. Or why they built sanctuary cities. Not today. That's totally different meaning today. Yeah, it's a big difference today. Back in the old days, it was a place you went so you didn't die. Well, let's pick up in verse 12, I believe it is. I'll make sure I got my verse. Yeah. Verse 12. The cities, or we'll back up to verse 9. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the people of Israel, say to them, when you cross Jordan into the land of Canaan, that you shall select cities to be cities of refuge for you, that a manslayer who kills any person without intent may flee there. And the city shall be for you a refuge from the avenger. Not the avengers, the guys with the mask, but the avenger. that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation for judgment. So can these men seek his life? Can the town seek to kill the boy and kill him? No. They have to bring him before the town or the magistrate. Unless, of course, they are related. And there can only be, how many blood avengers can there be? Only be one. There only be one. And it's the closest male heir to the family that was wronged. The city shall be, and the city shall give, shall be 6 cities of, 6 cities of refuge, and you shall give 3 cities beyond the Jordan and 3 cities in the land of Canaan to be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be for the people of Israel and for the stranger and the sojourner amongst them. If anyone kills any person without intent, they may flee there. What is the phraseology that's used here? Without what? Without intent. 16. But if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer, and the murderer shall be put to death. If he struck him down with a stone tool and could cause death and die, he is a murderer, and the murderer shall be put to death. And if he struck him down with a wooden tool and caused death, and he died, he is a murderer, and murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall himself put the murderer to death when he meets him. He shall put him to death. And if he pushes him out of hatred and hurls something at him and lies in wait so that he died, or in enmity strikes him down with his hand so that he died, and then he who struck the blow shall be put to death, he is a murderer, and the avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. Fair enough. So, she is making the argument, and what Joab is putting in there is, look, there are people, the individuals are seeking his life. They say, well, I will say that this individual can no longer seek this person's life. Now, if you notice the story that he gave, they fought in a field, and he struck him and killed. Was the intent in the story for the one to kill the other? Because remember, the story, the two are about intent, are they not? Yes, no, maybe so? So, but is there really a blood avenger here? And who is the blood avenger here? In reality. Who is she referencing, or who is David referencing by saying, let the blood avenger stop from doing this? Who is he actually talking about? Say again? I heard it. Himself. He's the father. One son kills the other. The other son has not gone to a city of refuge. By the way, if you were in the city of refuge and you were spared and you were found to be guiltless, you had to live there until the high priest died. You better hope that the high priest is older. Otherwise, you're going to be living in that city for a long, long time. Once the high priest dies, you could go home. But if you were found outside the province of the city before the high priest died, what happens? If the blood avenger found you, he could kill you. So she's using this language, David is using this language, and really within this whole scheme that's going on, who's the blood avenger in this? Well, I think it's David. I think that's what's going on. That your son not be destroyed. He said, as the Lord lives, we're back in Samuel, as the Lord lives, not one hair on your son shall fall to the ground. This is the second time where David has opened his mouth, where someone has presented to him a hypothetical, and now he answers. The woman said to you, let your servant speak the word of the Lord, a word to my lord, the king. And he said, speak. And the woman said, why then have you planned such a thing against the people of God? For in giving this decision, the king convicts himself inasmuch as the king does not bring his banished one home again. What is she saying? Your son is banished. Your son is gone. You have to you have put out this decree that not one hair should be harmed from this child. Nothing should be done to this child when he returns. But yet, O king, you have done this to us because you have what? Inasmuch as the king does not bring his banished one home again. We all must die like spilled water upon the ground, and we cannot gather it up again. But God will not take away the life that he despises, means that the blemish one will not remain an outcast. You've made us guilty of your son's imprisonment or self-imposed exile. Because David could have gone and sent for his son to return. Return, there's no problem. I'm not going to kill you, blah, 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 blah. But Absalom stays in exile for 3 years because there's a good chance that he's going to kill Absalom. Or someone in his family is going to kill Absalom.
I do think that Walter and I talked about this last week. I had a great aunt, and she had twin boys. And her boys got in a fight when they were like 20 years old. And one of them shot the other one to death. And she saw it. And when the sheriff came to get her to tell what had happened, she said that her living son was not home, that it was a stranger who had done it. And they never did solve that murder. But she knew that he had killed his brother. And she told, my grandmother was her sister, and she told her, she said, I'd already lost one son. How could I bear to lose another? And I have to think that some of that played into David's thing.
Well, I think so too, because David, the text will show, David has a soft spot for Absalom.
He's his child.
Yep. And so you also kind of see where David has kind of a blind parenting eye to all of his children. I mean, his oldest rapes Absalom's sister, and there's no recording of anything happening to the child. The son walks away. If that were to happen today, oh my goodness, it'd be all over the stinking news cycle, would it not? President's son rapes sister, president woes. All right, business as usual.
That's not necessarily true. Look at our situation now. We have people who have done terrible things, and they're running free because they have political connections, and the same thing was true with David.
Yep. So basically the argument is this. Your son is in exile, and who is behind this argument? Is this her argumentation?
No.
Whose is it? It's Joab. Joab is a crafty dude. Makes this whole story up so that the king will allow Absalom to return, which we will find out later on is a huge mistake and has greater consequences. Let's look at 18. Then the king said to the woman, do not hide from me anything I ask you. And the woman said, let my lord the king speak. And the king said, is this the hand of Joab with you in all this? Do you think David kind of knew what was going on? I'm sure that Joab has had conversations with David. What we get when we look at 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, is we get a good chunk of the snippets, but we get snippets. I mean, they're not recording daily conversation. And then Joab said, my lord the king, have you considered that maybe Absalom could return home for thy 4th birthday? No, said David, and thou shalt not ask of the... And they always spoke in King James English, even though they wrote in Hebrew. Shakespearean English too. No, thy servant thou shalt not allow Absalom to return. He shall remain in self-imposed exile. For I, thus the king, have said so. We don't get all the details. And this is a little rabbit. We'll pop this rabbit up and then we'll shoot him and go back. This is where when you have liberals come in and go, well, you know, the Bible doesn't record certain things. Yes, the Bible doesn't record a lot of times them doing natural functions. And occasionally when they do, there's usually a point behind it. But typically, we get snippets. So David knows this is coming from somewhere. And who does he know it's coming from? Joab! That's kind of like when your mom goes, so, what happened in school today? I think I heard a confession. I used to get asked that all the time. And at first I would try well, nothing. Well, I heard. And then I quit doing the nothing. I would go, who called? Yeah. Right now, my position is nothing, but I want to know what you know, and then I'll confess.
To only what you know.
To only what you know, and nothing more. And the woman says, she said, as surely as you live, my Lord the King. Yeah. One cannot turn to the right hand or to the left hand or anything that the Lord the King has said. It was your servant Joab who commanded me. It was he who put these words within my mouth of your servant in order to change the course of things. Your servant Joab did this. But my Lord has wisdom like the wisdom of the angel of God to know all the things that are in the earth. Nice save. Joab put me up to it, but my Lord, you are so wise and so knowledgeable that you saw right through my feeble attempt to deceive you. Wow. You just can't get a yes out of these folks. And you will begin to see that this scheming nature is going to, well, it's not going to, it's already pervasive. But we're going to see where the scheming nature is very pervasive. And we're going to see next week, well, we'll get there next week. We might get there next week. The goal is to finish up this last little bit, and then we'll do a little bit, and then get to next week. The scheming nature of what happens when you begin to use deception to make your points. When Absalom is going to set himself up in a great place. Don't. I didn't ruin it for you, so you'll come back. Then the king said to Joab, behold, now I grant this. Go and bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell on his face on the ground and paid homage and blessed the king. And Joab said, today your servant knows I have found favor in your sight, my lord the king, in that the king has granted the request of his servant. What was the request? Bring Absalom back. Joab recognizes that the king believes that what his course of action is right. Could have just come out and said it. Had to go through this. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. But notice right here. And the king said, let him dwell apart in his own house. He is not to come into my presence. So Absalom lived apart in his own house, but did not come into the king's presence. A bit odd conversation. We open with the heart of the king longs for Absalom. We close with him confining him to what? To quarters. That's right. It's a bit odd, is it not? What do you think? Why do you think that's the case?
When you go back to the beginning of it,
Mm-hmm.
Joab knew the king longed for Absalom.
Okay.
He already knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already trying to be the middleman.
Mm-hmm.
There's some relationship.
Okay.
That's just kind of interesting.
So he brings him back. But he tells him not to come into his presence at all.
But yet he longed to see him.
But yet he longs to see him. So you have there, I think, you have this tension between a father who recognizes he's got a son that killed his son and all that comes with that, and a father that longs to be in the presence of his son. Or his son in his presence.
He's got that parental instinct in there.
Mm-hmm. And as king, what does he do? I mean, he's got a lawbreaker, does he not?
And a broken heart.
And a broken heart. We'll look at 29, and we'll bounce around. So Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem without coming into the king's presence. Now, who is in Absalom's corner? David or Joab? Joab. There's a nice little blurb there in 25 about Absalom being very handsome, and we'll read that just for the sake of reading. Now in all of Israel there was no one as much to be praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head there was no blemish on him. And when he cut his hair off his head from the end of every year, he used to cut it, and when it was heavy on him, he cut it, and the weight of his hair was 200 shekels by the king's weight. So he had a lot out of what? He was like...
Your response is supposed to be, forgive him, Lord, he knows not what he's doing.
But I think Colton's hair didn't fit Absalom. Absalom was an afro kind of guy with hair out there.
He had a lot of hair. He had a lot of hair.
That's called control model.
So, but the weight of his hair every time he cut it off is 200 shekels. Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff in there. But notice what happens. Let's look at 28. For 20, and he gets into there were 3 sons born to Absalom and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar, and she was a beautiful woman. So Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem without coming to the king's presence. So Absalom sent for Joab. Why would he go to Joab? It's the same reason why I went to Mom when I wanted something instead of going to Dad. Mom.
Go to.
Mom was an easy sell. My mom was a much easier sell. My sister could go to my dad, and my dad would go, oh, okay. She'd go to my mom, and she'd, no. I go to my dad, he'd go, no. Go to my mom, she'd, well, I'll talk to your daddy about it. Score 1 for the home team. None of you played your parents against each other, I take it. So Absalom sent for Joab to send for the king, but Joab would not come to him. So he sent a second time, but Joab would not come to him. Then he said to his servant, see that Joab's field is next to mine. You gotta love how we get attention nowadays. We'll read it and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. Joab's field is next to mine, and his barley is there. Go and set it on fire. So Absalom's servant set the field on fire, and Joab rose and went to Absalom and his house and said, why have your servant set fire to my field? Well, because you wouldn't come over. This is like a bad breakup relationship thing, right? I mean, this is like, hey, can you come help me? Hello? Can you come help me? Bang, what? Why'd you shoot at me? Well, you wouldn't come. I mean, you want to talk about getting somebody's attention, go burn their house down. Hey, look at this mess. I couldn't get you to come see me, so I burnt your field down. But I want your help. Apparently, they have not read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because to me, this is not how you get people on your side. But apparently in Absalom's day, this was just like calling them up on the phone. And Absalom answered Joab and said, behold, I sent word you would not come, and that I may send you to the king to ask, why have I come from Geshur? Would it be better for me to still be there? Now, therefore, let me go into the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death. This goes back to the concept of David is the blood avenger. And then Joab went to the king and told him, and he summoned Absalom, and he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground, and the king before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. We're going to stop there, because in 15, we're going to see where Absalom just doesn't burn somebody's field down. Thoughts and questions? Except for the hairy guy here. You know, when you're ready to cut it, we need to cut it to see how much it weighs. Wouldn't that be like awesome? You're down for that? He's down for that. Yeah, brother.
That hair weighed about 5 pounds.
5 pounds. 5 pounds. You got a lot of conditioner you need to start putting in there. I hear that Pantene adds body to your hair. I don't know. I don't use that stuff because I'm a guy. So.
This one in David's life, there's no reference to anyone questioning God or asking God.
Oh, that's a very interesting observation. You don't see anyone consulting the Lord in these passages, do you? Then the Lord, because remember, before David would go out for battle, should I go out into battle? And will I be victorious? Because he always asks that secondary question, and will I win? Because the Lord might say, yeah, go out to battle. You're going to die, but sure, go on out. But in this section, what you have is no one is consulting the face of the Lord. To include whom? The king, who used to all the time. And you're going to see where this is going to get him in trouble. The safest place for Absalom to have been for the monarchy is where? Away. You got it. Nailed it right on the head. Away. Yes, brother.
Absalom have wife and servant?
He does. In that blurb where we passed over, Absalom had 3 sons and 1 daughter.
But were they with him in the sanctuary city? Back at home?
I would say yes, because it doesn't mention a wife and kids up until this point. And so I would think within the 7 years, somewhere along the way, he's had time to have 4 kids and a wife. And you gotta know at least that there's 9 months between each child. Right? Any other questions?
What does the weight of his hair have to do with anything?
Well, he was so handsome, and he had such thick, flowing hair. I mean, he had this nice... I mean, you think about it. I mean, you know, it's better... Oh, my goodness, look, my drink is almost gone. I mean, you know... yeah, I mean, you know, there's an aspect where the Hebrews had long hair. They also didn't shave regular, and so they had beards and things like that. They were much men. They were manly men. But he was a handsome dude, and his hair was nice looking at, you know? Kind of like that. That's, yeah, like Troy Polamalu's hair. You ever see old Troy Polamalu running around on the field? I mean, you know. Huh? Kaepernick looks like a clown that hasn't turned it colored yet. So, yeah, he just needs the nose to go with it. He'd be fine. But I think part of it is just that I mean, he's so healthy that this hair is, I mean, you got to think about it. 5 pounds worth of hair on your head? That's a lot of hair. Every year is 5 pounds worth of hair. That's a lot. I think it does. I think, you know, from the sole of his foot to the top, to the crown of his head. So I don't know who looked at the bottom of his feet, but apparently they were like stellar looking feet too. I mean, not only was he, I mean, he was on the cover of GQ And men's quarterly, that's the same thing, right? No. And men's quarterly going, hey, look at my long locks. My name's Absalom. I think it just mentions his hair because that's an attractive feature that he would have had. I don't know. I see a lot of girls go for the hippies in the rock bands, and they all got long hair. I don't know. Sorry, man. No offense. Any other questions besides why I pick on Colton? It is part of his job description, and he has learned that sitting on the front row usually makes you an object lesson. Any other questions? Next week, we're going to look at chapter 15. And we're going to see how Absalom, David's favorite, becomes not so much his favorite anymore. And then this individual, Joab, who seemed to be the champion for Absalom, is not going to be his champion. And the treachery involved. And with Absalom, if you read it, you will see, man, this guy is a calculated, malicious machine. So let's close out with a word of prayer.